Welcome back to Born for This Stories, where we speak the truths no one told us, so you don't have to carry this alone. Welcome back to Born for This Stories. Today's episode is one of those conversations that stays with you. We're sitting down with Ali and Kari, two moms whose children were born with limb differences, but whose journeys into motherhood, diagnosis, and advocacy look very different. One story begins with a prenatal ultrasound, another begins with a surprise at birth. What they share is the emotional terrain in between, the shock, the isolation, the unanswered questions, and the quiet resolve to make sure their children are not defined by what they are missing, but by everything they are. In this first episode, we're focusing on their personal stories, how they navigated diagnoses, early intervention, medical systems that weren't built for nuance, and the emotional labor parents carry that no chart ever captures. If you're a parent walking through something unexpected, if you've ever sat in a waiting room feeling alone, or if you've wondered how to advocate when you don't have the language, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in.
Thank you again for joining us, and we want to welcome Ali and Kari today again. Ali, if you could start, just give us a little rundown of your family. What's it like in the household, and where are you from, and all the good stuff about your family.
Sure, absolutely. I am located in the western suburbs of Chicago in Illinois, and I am married. I'll be married 10 years to my husband, Brian, this May. And I have a 4-year-old son. His name is Tyler, and we'll be talking about him a lot today. We also have a 8-month-old puppy named Penny. She is a Bernedoodle,
Oh my
and
gosh.
she's a bundle of energy. We love her to death. As a puppy, she's like 60 pounds now, so she overpowers us sometimes.
Did you say
But
60?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, she's
You're
like 60
important.
pounds. She's huge, but is the sweetest, most loving puppy that you could imagine having. So she just definitely completes our family. And let's see, what do we like to do for fun? We like to travel. We enjoy going out to eat, getting together with friends and family. I guess that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. It's so fun. All right, beautiful.
And then we're also joined by Kari, as I said. So if you could give us kind of the same rundown.
I'm Kari Treat. My husband and I, we've been together 15 years, married 10. And so kind of in a similar trajectory as Ali. My daughter Mackenzie is 6 and has an upper limb difference. And I also have a son, Donovan, who's 4. I am working on a lot of things in the advocacy space. I am a community connector with my local community in the Chicago suburbs. And I'm a swim coach. I coach for a club team and also an adaptive team.
Ooh, I want to hear more about that later, for sure.
My favorite topic.
Yeah.
Besides all of everything else that I'm doing, because it's all passion projects.
Yeah, I love it. But that's what fills your heart and your cup. So we can be very intentional with that work. Well, great. And we'll be weaving in your guys' story as we progress through this episode, because there is a way that you guys actually came together and know each other. And we want to focus on how all that story started. So whoever wants to go first, you can tell us. Like, we're talking about short limb difference today, and you have two very different trajectories from my understanding on how we got here. So let's dive in.
Going back, so Mackenzie was born in 2019, and she surprises at birth with an upper limb difference. Her right arm stopped growing about at the wrist, so there's some wrist movement, but then other than that, it's a pretty clean cut. And it was a shock, and my husband was shocked and ended up fainting and going to the ER. So I'm there with my daughter, and I'm like, she doesn't have a hand. And the doctors actually didn't notice at first either.
Oh my gosh.
So they went and checked her out at the table, then brought her back to me and said she's she's doing great and she's perfectly healthy. It's like, that's great, but what else is going on? And they didn't have a lot of information at that time. So then started just the searching of am I the only one?
Yeah.
Is this something that happens?
Mm,
Is everything else okay? Because as you start going into Dr. Google, there's a lot of information, and
sure.
does it all apply? And does it make sense for us? And then just trying to search like, okay, yes, there are more people out there. How do I find them? How do I connect with them?
Yeah.
Um, and it was just little things that like kind of kept me looking for it and finding those people virtually on Facebook, Instagram, and stuff, and seeing how people are doing anything. Because yeah, those first thoughts are kids can be mean with their words.
100%.
How is she going to handle this? How am I going to help her through those moments? That
Yeah.
was my first thought.
Yeah.
And um, so it's taken a lot of energy from us to help them have as much bravery and courage as they do now. And now Mackenzie's the 6-year-old in class who's raising her nubby whenever she has an answer or needs assistance. And but yeah, there's a lot of stepping stones that had us get here. And going through and applying for early intervention in our state, we were denied because at 6 months old, she's sitting up straight and she could roll over. And I didn't know that we could get reevaluated. And so it was the gaps in those things are why I started sharing more and connecting with more people. And then when she was 9 months old, we went to our first meetup that I just found a random group of people were going to meet up in Chicago. And so I drove in like blindly. I was like, these look like nice enough people. And it was one of those most beautiful moments. Mackenzie was the youngest, and there was women up through their 20s with limb differences. And it was just the energy of connecting with these girls and their moms. And like I strived for that. And then
Sure.
COVID hit at her first birthday. And it was like, how can we get back to that? So then a lot of just sharing virtually and making those connections. And then that's when I connected with Ali.
All right. That is exciting. And it does, I want to pivot into Allie's like
Yeah.
how we got here with Tyler. And I think that it's going to be, it's going to be a little bit different. So, and then we'll pop in and ask some different questions.
Sounds good. Yeah. And listening to Kari introduce herself and all of that, I realized I neglected to share what I do for a living. I'm a counselor by trade,
Oh,
clinical
nice.
counselor here in the western suburbs. And I work with the perinatal population.
Awesome.
Um, so women who are trying to conceive, women
Yep.
who are pregnant, and working with women postpartum. And I really love what I do. And this kind of segues into like how I got interested in that. And that
Sure.
is, I struggled to conceive for about 5 years
Hmm.
and did all sorts of fertility treatment. And it was challenging. We
Hmm.
did several rounds of IUI and several
Wow.
rounds of IVF.
Okay.
And so Tyler was our last embryo,
Okay.
Wow.
and he took.
Wow.
And he's a miracle,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
We're just so grateful for Tyler every single day. But, the journey hasn't been easy.
Sure.
First, it was the fertility treatment, and then we went in my husband and I, Brian, went into our 20-week anatomy scan with the maternal fetal medicine specialist. And we kind of anticipated it was with IVF babies, once in a while there are like some heart issues, congenital heart issues. And so we're like, okay, we might get some news. So we were preparing ourselves for maybe news about the heart. What we weren't
Mhm.
anticipating was them to tell us that he was missing his hand.
Yeah.
and that this was also associated with certain syndromes that could potentially lead him to not be born.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And one of the follow-up questions that the doctor had within the first 3 minutes of sharing this was, would we consider termination?
Oh my gosh. Mm,
And that was like a gut punch.
sure.
To say the least.
Yeah, because Tyler was our last embryo.
Yeah.
Literally, all our eggs were in the basket. And it was shocking. It was traumatic.
Hmm.
Um, it did not align with our values. We wanted more information.
Sure.
And after the doctor had exited to give us some time to process this news, Brian and I talked a lot about like, okay, what are our options? And so we came up with some questions for when the doctor returned, and we asked, what are the next steps here? There are no guarantees that this pregnancy is going to end in a termination,
Yeah.
whether we continue with the pregnancy or otherwise. And we said, we want to know what we can do. And so we did an amniocentesis,
Uh-huh.
and lo and behold, the information from that, everything else was normal. Everything was normal
Wow.
besides the hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also did some follow-up genetics testing after he was born. And again, everything came back normal.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So they said it was a random occurrence. For some, it's amniotic band syndrome.
Hmm.
And for us, it was a random occurrence. The Ironically, when Tyler was born and we were in the NICU with him for about 36 hours, because he actually did end up having a little issue with his heart. Um, the genetics specialist, the doctor that came in, had a limb difference,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was pretty powerful.
Sure.
It just offered us a lot of comfort. And, here's this doctor, this specialist who's, successful.
Yeah.
But to go back to that 20-week anatomy scan and the feelings that we were experiencing, worry, shock, and we weren't given any resources. We were given zero resources
Yes.
besides genetics,
Yeah.
there wasn't a community that we were connected with. There weren't any specialists really
Hmm.
besides Dr. King, who's really popular in this area, the orthopedic surgeon that works with kids. But yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that because there was nothing, those feelings of, isolation just were extremely pronounced. And I didn't like it. So I wanted to change
Yes.
it.
Yes. I
And
feel
as you
that.
know, if there is something that we can control, then we can, if we don't like something, we can change it. And so I started doing research, much like Carrie shared in her story. And I went on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and looked for other moms.
Yeah.
I was like, Tyler and my family, we can't be the only ones who've experienced this.
Hmm.
But it was really hard
Yeah.
to find information.
Yes.
And it was also really challenging to find a community. And so that's when Carrie and I, we actually connected through Facebook, and we were super excited to find each other.
Yeah. I bet. And you're close enough to
We
really
are. And we
connect.
were 30 minutes apart. Like,
Yeah.
who knew, in the
Yeah.
Chicagoland area?
Right.
Um, and there are other moms we've connected with too along the way.
Love it.
So through Facebook, we've set up play dates in this area,
Oh, that's so
and
amazing.
we've connected with this really great group of moms that we're just so thankful for.
Yeah, for sure. So when you had that ultrasound and then obviously you get the diagnosis on Tyler and then you're going to go through and you're going to do the additional testing, right? How much time was in between like when you were living in that limbo land to get those
Mhm.
results?
Yeah. Um, it had to be 4 to 6 weeks. It was a
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
wait to get those results.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm just checking to make sure, I'm going in frequently and getting scans done, and they're checking growth and they're checking to make sure he still has a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, the wait was agonizing.
Yeah.
Especially after the doctor posed the question that he posed
Mhm.
right away. I
Yeah,
feel like he jumped the gun a little bit on that question.
we agree. And
Mhm.
come to find out, in speaking with some of the other moms on our podcast, which we'll get into, and just in the community, this doctor is notorious for
Yeah.
jumping the gun and doing that
Mm.
because there was another mom who has a child with a limb difference that experienced the exact same thing.
Oh, that's so sad. That makes me want to cry.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Because all of
yeah.
these amazing
awful.
little humans may not even have the opportunity to be amazing
Hmm.
without further investigation. And of course, like we always respect like anyone's decisions. Like we're here for support. We're not here to judge, but at the same time, like let's get all the information before.
We start thinking about that drastic
Right.
of an answer.
Mm. For
Yes.
Right.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And a lot of
One.
it just comes from just their unknown.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
handle what's inside the mother. They
Yep.
don't see what comes from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a big gap in the medical professional world
Yeah.
where, yes, we don't expect you to have all the answers,
Hmm.
but how can we give you some answers so that you can help that next family?
Yeah, for sure.
What is it that you need? Is it additional education? Do you need to see these young humans, adults thriving in their lives and their
Hmm.
quality of life is pretty quality,
Yeah.
like high
Hmm. High
quality.
quality.
So yeah, that's always been a big topic of a lot of our conversations is do the nurses, do the maternal fetal medicines, the pediatricians, even going and seeing with the
Mhm.
pediatrician, they're like, this is new for our practice
Yeah.
and we're going to work with you. But yeah, we can't connect you because of HIPAA laws and all of
Mhm.
that. And so then, yeah, if you're not going to make the events happen, like in the Chicago area, there's a Shriners Hospital, which a lot of us have been into, and they're great and they do a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're not an active patient, if you're not there to get the prosthetic, if you're not going through the surgeries,
Yeah.
you're kind of in that limbo of my child is not disabled enough to be considered a patient of this hospital,
Yeah.
so I do not receive the services.
Correct.
And that's tough
Yes.
because then we don't see the
Yep.
services. We don't get to connect. And so then it's all happening online
Mm.
and that's uncontrolled too.
Yeah. I was
Yep.
gonna say
And
it.
yeah, the
That is,
blessing and curse of social media is, yeah,
yeah.
but if it's the only way we're going to be able to connect, yeah, some of them they had done picnics and stuff in the past, but then stopped doing that. And then especially during COVID, there was so many
Yeah.
programs that had stopped that are starting to come back, which is cool.
Yeah.
And we're putting ourselves out there. We're like, hey, can we be part of this?
Sure.
Just to show up because, yeah, there's plenty of kids with disabilities that don't recognize other disabilities. And there's been times when we've been around a lot of kids in wheelchairs and they're staring at Mackenzie too because they haven't seen a kid without a hand.
Sure.
And so it's just like that normalizing is important for everyone,
Mm.
just to recognize that it's all out there.
Absolutely. And I envision a world and maybe in all due time, we will create it. Like there being some sort of advocacy in these hospitals and these areas where, there's like there's a counselor or somebody that
Yeah.
is in charge of helping the parents and the caregivers. Like, hey, you just got this diagnosis. You probably don't know what questions to ask yet because possibly you're in shock and you're just processing this new information. Here are the most common questions that patients come back with. Here are the support groups that we can connect you with. Can we share information of individuals? No, but we can set you up with support groups and help navigate this space with you and provide the questions. And that way, the caregivers and the patients themselves are better served. And, I think that would just be a
Absolutely.
better outcome for everybody.
Right.
And that
Yeah,
is one of our goals.
for sure.
And I know we'll kind of get into that with
Yeah,
the nonprofit that we formed.
love it.
But yes, we want to be connected with the social workers and the
Yeah,
counselors in the hospital and, let the nurses know. Because let's be honest,
yeah.
the nurses
They're
do
the
the
important
bulk of
ones.
the work.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
For sure. We want to move some mountains and you got to build all your all your warriors right now.
mhm.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
sure. And then I just want to make sure I understand correctly. Carrie did not, you had your ultrasound and we did not
Yeah.
know, right?
So yeah, we had multiple ultrasounds, and in one of them, she was all balled up, and we go, "Oh, she's got her whole fist in her mouth. That's going to be a great party trick." And she does it now, and she's like, "Hey, you want to see my party trick?" Because she's heard me tell this story so many times.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it was never like, "Oh, let's go in and look." So then when I was pregnant with my second child, I was like, "Hey, just give me, we know how to manage it, but if you could just make sure to count how many toes, how many fingers there are,
Yeah.
we'd appreciate it."
Yeah.
And honestly, like when I find out friends are pregnant, like kind of, I've reached that point in our experience where I kind of joke about it, but
You said your husband passed out when she was born, right? Be just from, I'm guessing, shock.
yeah, he does have some like fight or flight responses
Uh-huh.
where, yeah, extreme situations
Mm,
can
fair,
affect him in different ways.
fair.
Um, and so yeah, he
Fainting is one of the responses that are
fainted.
not as often talked
Right,
about when
Yeah.
when your
right.
response kicks in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I mean, I'm sure that has happened to others. So it's definitely very relatable, especially in
Mhm.
that medical setup going
Yeah,
through
yeah,
that.
he's not comfortable in those settings.
Yeah,
In
for
that
sure.
way.
For sure. So then after diagnosis and we know what's going on, we're looking for support and how how did that season look for you guys? Like, I mean, obviously we find that it is a long season as you're navigating this space, but with Carrie, you didn't know until Mackenzie was born. And then where did you go from there? Because if you're like any other mom I know, your head goes a million places.
Yeah, and because there were so few services that we knew about right at the
Sure.
beginning, we asked our pediatrician at her like regular checkup,
Yep.
and they suggested to um, find an orthopedic surgeon. Um, Again, not many like recommendations,
Yeah.
and of course insurance, and so what's going to be a network and all of that.
Yeah.
So we ended up seeing, it was probably about 4 months when we could finally got into the appointment with the orthopedic surgeon specialist, Dr. King, out of Lurie Children's Hospital. And he was great. He had wonderful bedside manner. You
Love
could
it.
tell he's
Mhm.
done this all the time. And
Mhm.
he was kind of like, yeah, with this disability, we really wouldn't recommend any surgery. And unless you're looking, he actually said, unless you're looking to transfer a toe to her nubby. And
A toe?
he's like, I've even had parents ask if they can transfer one of their toes to their child. And I was like, that's not even like that did not even, I did not even
Yeah.
would be something. And I'm just like, I think we're good. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate the
Um,
creativity though.
yes, right? Yeah. And yeah. So we any other service or like orthopedic surgery or anything at that point. And then about 8 months, and then they suggested meet with Shriners. They do a lot of prosthetics and stuff. So made that appointment with Shriners Hospitals, and I think it was 8 months that we ended up seeing them. And they again, the doctors were great. They brought in the prosthetist and they like plopped down this box of just like ancient looking prosthetics, all that like just like basic skin color and
Mhm.
the like fake hand
Yeah.
and which has some movement or there's one that like straps on to their like through their shoulders so that when you extend it, it's a hook that opens, and then when you retract, it closes, so that they can work on holding and stuff with that. And I was honestly, I'm just like, this is not our vibe. I'm not trying to cover anything up,
Yeah.
and I don't want to fake anything.
Yep.
And I don't. I guess, yeah, I think that was kind of influencing some of the accounts on social media
Mhm.
that they, these adult women doing everything that they're doing without a prosthetic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was in my mind that I want her to be comfortable with her limb difference. I want her to figure out balance in her own way. Um, and yeah, we kind of just didn't touch on prosthetics for a couple of years, actually.
Can I
Um,
ask you, like, just from your mom perspective and feeling like when they plop that box in front of you and
yeah,
that's what they had in this day and age, where was your mind
right.
at? Like,
I mean, it was well, and I see these. So we see these like bionic hands and
yeah.
everything, and like that's what you think about, but
Hmm.
it's got to start somewhere. And I'm not going to put a multi-thousand-dollars
Yeah.
piece of equipment or accessory or anything onto an infant
Hmm.
or even at 6 years old right now. I'm still not gonna do that yet. But yeah, it was like, really, this is it. And then they had a little like catalog of like different sport equipment and other attachments for prosthetics. And I was like, I think that's the route we're going to go down the
Sure.
line when
Yeah.
she's ready to use specific tools for specific uses.
Cool.
And so yeah, that was a shock. And with that and just asking like is there's got to be more people around here. Like you do
Hmm.
prosthetics. Where are the prosthetic users that I can ask them? And they were like, oh yeah, with HIPAA, we can't provide that information. I was like, okay, well, I know you've done meetups or like picnics.
Yeah.
Like, how can we get into a picnic? And they're like, oh, well, we've stopped that at this time. And it's just like, okay, where do I start?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, we left there. We went in very optimistic and enthusiastic and left like with an icky taste in our mouth.
Yeah.
But we've gone back a couple of times and now they do picnics. And so we've attended those. And they've redeveloped their like child life specialist and like community and everything. So that's growing and we're excited and hope we can be part of that more. But yeah, that initial meeting was tough.
Mm.
And it was kind of like, okay, I still have more questions.
Yes, for sure.
But
Like opening
yeah,
Pandora's box.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So it was just like, okay, let's keep searching.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it was actually like kind of what helped me through the birth and those initial weeks too. There was a little girl, her name's Jordan, and March 2019 at the beginning of the month. And it was like in the back of my head. So a few weeks before Mackenzie was born. It was just a cool story that was on the news. And she's at the Museum of Science and Industry. And she had a prosthetic arm that shot out glitter. And she called it Project Unicorn because it looked like a unicorn
Oh
horn.
my goodness.
So it was, and so she was there to open an exhibit with what was it? It was like adaptive and bionic exhibit, just like wearable technology that people are developing. And she was there to open it. And it was like, okay, if my kid can be that cool, we're good.
Yeah.
And
Shout
so
out to
yeah,
Jordan Reeves,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Shout
She's
out
an
to Jordan
inspiration.
Reeves, her mom. Yeah. So yeah, seeing her, and then a few months later, we ended up going to the exhibit and seeing that, and that was amazing. And then a couple of weeks after that, there was that meetup in Chicago with all these moms and women, and she was there, and I got to see her mom, and they gave Mackenzie her first Barbie, and it had the
Oh.
prosthetic leg that they were part of developing. We're still waiting on them to do an arm. But
Come on,
the things
Mattel.
are happening in Barbie, so I think it's coming.
That's very
But
cool.
yeah, so that was like, I want a cool prosthetic. I
Yeah.
want my kid to have a cool prosthetic.
Heck
Like,
yeah.
if she's gonna stand out with a tool on her arm,
Yeah.
I want it to, like, I want her to be willing to show it off and be excited about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's
Right.
toggle back to Ali and see
Yeah.
where she's at with Tyler. And did you need to go down the prosthetic route? Where are you at? What's your story and journey?
Yeah. Great question. So we never went the route of prosthetics, or at least we haven't yet.
Hmm.
We talked with the orthopedic surgeon who offered to, at some point down the line, maybe when he's 5, do a surgery to widen the gap because Tyler's difference is a little bit, well, it's different than Mackenzie's.
Hmm.
Tyler has basically part of his hand, just no fingers. So where his fingers would be it's just 5 nubs.
Hmm. Okay.
And in between the crease of where his fingers should be, like his thumb and forefinger or first finger, um, they had talked about widening that space to help with pincer grip.
Yep.
So, something that we're still considering,
Yeah.
but not at this point. He can do so much
Yeah.
with his lefty, that's what we call it,
Yeah.
lovingly. And he can turn pages, he can push buttons, turn on light switches. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that he's figured out
Sure.
on his own that we're not sure that it's something that is going to be needed. And maybe we'll wait until he's even older, where maybe he can decide if he
Hmm.
wants surgery to give him that autonomy to choose.
Yeah. Is
But we did do outside of that, we did do early intervention. He did qualify because there were multiple areas that he needed support in. He
Mhm.
struggled with things like crawling and sitting up and um, yeah, walking. He didn't
Mhm.
walk until he was 21 months. So, I mean, it was a journey with
Sure.
early intervention. We're so grateful for the support that he received.
Yeah. And what did that
Um,
look like?
sure, he was working with, so he was evaluated here at the house, which is great that they come
Yeah.
to the house and administer services, right? Or provide services. He was evaluated by developmental therapy or a developmental therapist, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, speech and feeding. I think that covers all of them. And he qualified for OT, occupational
Mhm.
therapy, and PT and speech.
Yeah.
So we had a rotation of providers coming to
Yeah.
the house and providing those services for him. So trying to schedule that around, I'm fortunate enough to be able to work for myself. I have my own practice, so I have the flexibility to be able to schedule those appointments
Yeah.
around my schedule. That was tricky.
Sure. I understand.
But it definitely is a privilege because I know not everyone has that
Yeah,
option.
for sure.
Um, One thing, as grateful as we were for early intervention, one thing that we did feel was lacking was the assessments that they use. We felt like they were maybe appropriate for typical
Sure.
children
Yeah.
with all their limbs.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really a consideration for Tyler as
Okay.
like an individual. It was very like, well, this is, what the sample size,
Hmm.
or the sample for like a case study or whatever.
Yeah.
This is what the majority you know, um, use. So we're going to continue to use this assessment. And we just didn't
Right.
think it was appropriate.
Right.
One of the things that they wanted him to do was that they were really stuck on was stringing beads. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to look a little different when
Yeah.
he strings beads compared to a child with two hands.
Right.
And so I'm not sure why we were stuck on that for so long. He eventually learned and he
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think those kinds of things, there just needs to be a consideration from these early intervention providers. And maybe it's, powers that be, higher powers that
Right.
are making these decisions as to which assessments to use. But there needs to be an adjustment. There needs to
Hmm.
be some consideration when
Sure.
assessing our children, or children with disabilities in general.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So we have that, and like obviously, I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm assuming like insurance paid for this to happen. I wonder, and I don't know if you can speak upon this, like with other people you've talked to. I wonder if you were forced to go the route of like seeing an OT or PT out of pocket, like private practice, if it would have been more aligned with, like what Tyler or Mackenzie need to learn with the adaptation that is needed versus like this is the checkbox for every
Yeah.
kid that we need to do.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up because we
Hmm.
also did do private services for
Yeah.
OT when we weren't getting the support
Yeah.
or results that we were hoping for. We actually did pay out of pocket
Hmm.
for occupational therapy to help him with certain things. And we still are engaged in occupational therapy
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
as things like, as they develop, there
Yeah.
are more things that they need help with, like
A hundred
dressing
hundred
and
percent.
zipping, and opening jars and lids
Mm-hmm.
and, or peeling off lids, things like that. So,
Yeah.
but that's also not accessible for everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be able to pay for private services.
Yeah.
And, there are many individuals that can't afford that.
Yeah. My mind kind of goes like, for example, like we homeschool our oldest and like I'm grateful that we can, but at times I'm like, wow, this is actually like really hard. So I couldn't imagine in that scenario of like, okay, I can't afford private pay and maybe you've used all the coverage that you have for your OTPT and then you, the parent, have a choice that you have to help your child adapt. But how can you properly do that without the training and the tools? Because there's going to be
Yes.
frustration on both sides, right?
Mhm.
And if just from a homeschool standpoint, like I see that, let alone an actual like activity that they need to learn to do their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Activities of daily living. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, these shouldn't be, you know, it, every kid should have access,
Yeah.
right? To be
Yeah.
able to help them develop these life skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Totally. Did
I just want to chime in with
yes,
that
please
with
do.
OT because we ended up doing private OT from age 2 to 3 for Mackenzie. Um, the big part was is like kids watch their parents and that's how they figure out how to do things.
Yep.
And I was just like, I don't know how to teach. Like I can put my hand behind my back or make a little fist, but I don't know how to teach her to go to the bathroom and put on her clothes or like is there a best way to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really grateful that we were able to do private OT, but that was an expense when it was like, yeah, every week we're going in for a year. And then I think it was like 8 months and then we dropped to like once a month. But like, and even the OT had to help us fight insurance
Yeah,
because insurance didn't see that it was totally necessary.
I know.
And it was just like, come on.
I know.
And like I almost think like OT and PT should be like required for every kid because it just
Mhm.
helps like yeah, how many times do we see it like as parents we're like, "Oh, you're just going to give me this whole baby and now I need to
Mhm.
make sure that they stay alive
Yep.
and figure this out and
Yep.
figure that out."
Yep.
And it's like and hopefully not scar them for life.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And you
Totally.
hear about it, but then you do it anyway, and you have the kid, and you're like, "Oh, this is what they
Yeah,
mean."
this is what they were talking about.
Yeah, and then an additional factor when you're including other differences and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was so the OT, she was wonderful in helping us with that. Like her biggest focus was core strength and doing a lot of core strength exercises so that and we've had some people on our podcast talking about how important like to avoid overuse syndrome
Mhm.
where you have chronic pain and other issues because you're not using that limb properly
Sure.
or in a way that is safe. Because yeah, Mackenzie, I think she was meant to be a righty, but she
Yeah.
doesn't have a right hand, so she makes that adjustment.
Yeah.
But she still reaches her arms up when something's on the table. She reaches and pulls it in with her nubby and then grabs it with her other hand. And even riding a bike, and she's leaning in one way until we got some tools to use for that. Or writing and she's leaning on her one side to hold her paper down and cutting or writing with her left arm. So yeah, it was a lot of like that kind of training that just having that OT helping us with some of the, hey, maybe try this, let's check this out. And then yeah, making sure she's sitting straight
Yeah.
and use that arm, but in a way that it's going to like strengthen it and keep that power and stuff on that side, but you're going to have to adapt to where you need to. Um, and so, yeah, that definitely helped us through those hardest times and buttons and
Yeah.
pulling up the pants, a lot of shimmying and left side, right side, front and back, and all
Mhm.
of that. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, it looks a little different for everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
So I think it was Carrie that mentioned how kids can be cruel, and that was one of your concerns early on. But the questions for both of you guys is that how has that impacted things? Has that been as big of a deal? Because I think kids absolutely can be cruel. We've seen it, but I almost think they can also be really understanding and inviting because they don't.
They're curious
Yeah,
too.
they're curious and they I think they're good at heart. Just in school situations specifically, I think there can be cliques or whatever, and it can form into some hate and stuff like that. But how has that played a role, whether it be in school or community for your children?
Yeah, well, I think you bring up an important point. When we initially had these thoughts running through our mind, of course, we're going to jump to worst case scenario because we're in fight or flight mode, right? Our fear
100%. Yeah.
network has been activated. And so jumping to worst case scenario
I
in
so
order
enjoy this
to figure out
conversation, by
ways.
the way.
Say again.
I said I so enjoy this conversation in your background, by the way. I'm like all about it. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry to interrupt.
so no, that's okay. No, we're really enjoying this too. And so we're jumping to worst case scenario, and it's coming from a place of fear and love, right? We want to
Yep.
protect our kids from
Oh,
being hurt. But
yeah.
to your point, kids are also and mostly curious, right? They're not just going to be outright cruel. Most of the questions that come up are coming from a place of curiosity.
Yes.
And we have seen that in different settings, whether it be at school or, at a family party,
Hmm.
where the cousins you might see maybe once or twice a year have questions and are curious. And we try our best to, and it's taken a lot of conversations between Kari and I and some of the other moms to have different scripts or
Hmm.
responses that we've worked on. And I think a really important part too is self-regulation, right? Because when we hear that, it triggers something within us.
Hmm.
And to be able to pause and take a step back, take a
Yeah.
deep breath, and respond to these children, because they are just children.
Yes.
Um, and we'll say something like, "That's a really great question." If they say, "Hey, how come Tyler doesn't have any fingers?" That's a really great question. He was actually born this way, and he can do a lot actually with his lefty.
Hmm.
He can turn pages and push buttons, and, we all have differences.
Hmm.
You have different colored eyes than I do. Maybe you wear glasses, and we really try to make it more of a conversation and an opportunity for learning. And usually the kids then accept our response and go off and play
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
from what we found.
Yeah. Love that. Love it. Have you had a similar experience, Carrie?
Yeah, so we've had similar experiences. And I think, yeah, her being born a little different definitely like took me out of my comfort zone. And I'm a lot more of an extrovert now because, yeah, if especially early on, I was like, we're gonna get out, we're gonna do the same things that we were normally gonna do. Um, like I want to travel, I want to still hang out and like take kids to the restaurant so that they can like be functioning humans in a restaurant in the future and everything. So I was definitely like we're gonna treat her like a normal kid and stuff.
Hmm.
And then it was going to like the play date, not as many like play dates. Because our friends were all different ages and stuff. And so yeah, schools in there and stuff like that. I was still working at that time, like full time, and so she was in daycare, and the daycare was wonderful, and they were very interested in helping her in any way that they could. Um, and the kids she was growing up with, and they were perfectly fine, and didn't really like acknowledge anything in that case. And so we ended up like some of the library play dates that were or like the library story times and stuff definitely stand out in my mind or like at the playgrounds where the kids would be playing and either not notice at all or when they do notice, they'd like take a couple of looks and then go over to mom um and ask what's going on. And if I had that like I would take that opportunity to be like, hey, like, did they notice something curious, something unique about Mackenzie? Yeah, that says Mackenzie. She's 1 year old and she has a limb difference. She was born without her hand. And she's so cool. And look at she's walking and she can play these games with you too. And then like at the parks, you'd have older kids who they might, if they notice, they would actually come to me because and not ask her directly a lot of the time. Or if she's like, I'm just gonna go off and play, they saw like I was there and I'd be like, yeah, that's Mackenzie. She has one hand and maybe she'll have a robot hand someday, but she loves swimming and stuff. I see you playing and climbing. Like, yeah, she's working on that too. So a lot of that, I tried to vocalize that positivity very early on so that she could also have that internal dialogue for when
Yeah.
those conversations came to her.
Love that.
And so a lot of her responses are, yeah, I was born this way. Or you'll see some families, they'll say, yeah, God made me this way, or they're not interested in talking to them either, and that's
Mhm.
fine too. We've in some of the like online forums, some of the families, they will say that we're going to wait and let them answer for themselves. And I like good on you. I think that's great, but I think vocalizing and positivity and helping them find their voice
Mhm.
in a positive way, I think can do a lot for them also.
Yeah.
Because if you're not talking about it when another kid is asking about it, then they don't know how to talk about it either.
Sure.
Mhm.
And there's a lot that that can get into that. But yeah, we love on her nubby all the time as much as we can. So
Yeah.
but she's a kid, and
Mhm.
there's times when just last week she was like, "Hey, this summer can we go to the doctor and get me a hand?" And those were tough conversations.
Sure.
And it was like, I thought we were in a good spot. But
Yeah.
um, and she's gonna, and so that gets into a lot of emotions that we get to carry as
Mhm.
parents.
Mhm.
And I I have tears with her. Because yeah, I want her to be comfortable in her body.
Yeah.
And she's so proud of herself and everything she's accomplished already. But she's gonna have it in her mind that
Mhm.
there's something else. And so when that happens, it's a lot of like, yeah, this is different. And yes, we can absolutely go and talk to the doctors and see about getting a prosthetic, but it's not going to be your hand. Like it is going to be something that will help you with certain tasks and tools. Um, and you can use it when you want to. But we're not going to cover up your nubby just to cover it up because it is an amazing part of your whole person. And we want you to be proud of it and proud of everything that you can do.
Yeah. I love that. And you did mention like carrying the mental load of what they're going through, but also like you as the parent trying to navigate all of this. And it's a big, big thing to carry for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And trying to
Totally.
navigate probably for the first time. Right.
Right. Yeah. And every time after that.
100%. Yeah. Cause I mean, I think we all know, like, as they get older and they grow, then different life changes. Like we've all been young and now we're older and different scenarios happen. And sometimes it's easier to navigate things when you're younger. And then when you get older, other people's opinions matter a little bit more. And it's just, I love how you're empowering your kiddos that they are whole and they are strong and they are good. And them having that planted in from a young age will help impact them for sure in the
Right.
future.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And yeah, like that conversation kind of came up because she was talking about Valentine's, and
Mm.
she was like, I asked this boy to be my Valentine. He
Oh.
said maybe. And then this other boy came to me and he asked me to be his Valentine. And I said maybe. And so it was
Yeah,
like, okay, is this triggered by something
sure.
that was said in a conversation or a thought that was had in that conversation? And so once we got through all that, she's like, okay, do you want to play Barbies?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know, like, yes, let me try to
Yeah,
switch
I
this piece of
know.
my mind off and let's do it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can so relate to that. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same.
and did you
So
end up
fresh.
getting her a prosthetic?
So when she was, again, meeting all the people and like going and connecting with people, there's a camp, Camp No Limits, and they started it 20 years ago, and it's been all over the country, like different locations, different weekends and stuff. And they started doing it in the Chicago area, like north suburbs, in 2022. And we've gone every year because it's such, we call it Nub Camp, and it's all kids, upper limb differences, lower limb differences, and OTs, PTs, counselors, and just everybody in this same tight-knit environment for a weekend. And like we stay in the dorms, that it's like a boarding school up there. And then the kids play, and then they have breakout sessions, and the parents have breakout sessions, and then prosthetists come and they can share their tools and stuff. And there's this one company, Soft Prosthetics. They're out of the UK, and they've brought some tools, and some of the adult mentors with limb differences, they were using the tools. And it was like, okay, this is our vibe,
Yeah.
because it is lighter weight. It just straps around her nubby, and they can adjust it for whatever length and all of that. And then they have colorful sleeves that you can put over it. So we saw that in 2022, and then 2023, we ended up ordering one right before her fourth birthday. And so she was so excited for that. And so it has different like attachments that you can take on and off. So she has one with a like a mushroom stamp, I think they kind of, or like a stump. So she uses that for like tumbling and like working on her cartwheels and
Yeah.
handstands and all of that. And then another one that has like a little like hook, but not like the other kind of hooks, but it just like holds on to her bike, or it has like a Velcro thing so it can hold pencils
Yeah.
and stuff like that, or like paintbrushes, just so she can like, she loves having like painting both sides and everything. So yeah, she has that, and she has a rainbow sleeve and a flower sleeve, and she loves it. And then, yeah, so that's kind of like the more specific tools. And Illinois Assistive Technology Program. Most of the states have an assistive technology program, and a lot of schools will work with them to get adaptive devices. Most people think of it with like the is it AACs, where the boards that have the different feelings or words and stuff for
Okay.
nonverbal people and stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
So they actually also have a lot of adaptive tools for other users with limb differences, or like video gaming systems, and kitchen utensils and stuff. So we got to go down there a couple of times and test out some of their products. And they have a 3D printer, and they were like, yeah, we can make like a hand. So Mackenzie designed this whole thing. She got to pick out the colors, and her biggest thing was she wanted to make it shoot out glitter. And yeah, she has a purple and pink 3D printed prosthetic that straps on her arm also. And when she extends her arm, it goes just over the elbow. When she extends her arm, it's open. And then when she pulls it back, it closes. So it's the same like kind of design as that hook that opens and closes, but a heck of a lot cuter. And
Yeah.
yeah, last week she was like, I want to bring this to school today. And I'm like, yeah, go for it.
Aw.
And then I get a call from the nurse. They're like, should we know about something? I was like, oh, you probably should. Like, yeah, she just wanted to bring this in, and she brought it in kindergarten last year too, kind of to show off and
Yeah.
stuff. But again, I think it might be part of a bigger conversation with those crushes and stuff. And I'm not ready.
I know.
I thought you were
I'm
going to
not
say that
ready.
they called and said, you're going to need to stop putting glitter in this thing. We can't keep cleaning all this up.
That we made sure not to include the glitter attachment. My husband doesn't even want us putting that.
I know.
So yeah,
That's
that's been
fun.
fun. Yeah. So
that's
we're trying
cool.
to have fun with it, I think
Yeah.
is the biggest thing that we found was important. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think we will be looking at kind of a more traditional prosthetic soon, just to but again, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing that I hold back on a traditional prosthetic is going through the process, getting all the excitement and getting to pick out so many things. And then insurance saying you're gonna still have to pay like $10,000 out of pocket.
Sure.
There are um movements going through in litigation being passed where additional prosthetics are being okayed by insurance and stuff. There's So Everybody Can Move is an organization that's pushing that throughout the states. And Illinois has been approved. But it's still like, okay, what are they actually approving, and how much does the doctor need to sell that this kid needs this? And then listening to the advocacy side, and they're like, we need you to go and ask for this so that we
Yeah.
can say like this
Yeah.
is what it's needed. And
Oh,
so it's like putting her through the emotional thing, but thinking long term how many people this could help. Like,
yeah.
I think we're gonna try for it this summer. But yeah, we'll keep
Yeah.
everyone updated on
For
that
sure.
process.
For sure. Yeah. And thank you about speaking upon that, because I'm sure other families do go through that. And it is important to know, obviously it can be an emotional roller coaster, especially with kiddos, but
They don't understand.
they
Yeah.
don't understand. And then it's like you have to do it to move the needle forward, but you don't want to let them down and them to be disappointed and upset. And you're like, but this could be in our favor in the long run, but the
Yeah.
long run, I don't know when that is. And
Right.
yeah, it's just like a really realistic thing going on for sure. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to pause here intentionally, because what Ali and Kari shared isn't just about limb differences. It's about what happens when parents aren't given enough information, enough support, or enough connection, and choose to build it anyway. In our next episode, we shift the lens. We talk about how Ali and Kari came together, why they created the podcast Parenting Children with Limb Differences, and how their work is changing the way families find community, language, and hope after diagnoses. If today's episode resonated with you, you'll absolutely want to continue this conversation, because support shouldn't be something parents have to stumble into alone. We'll see you in part 2. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love for you to take one simple step. Share it with a friend, another parent, or a caregiver who might need to know they are not alone in this journey. Make sure you are subscribed so you will never miss an episode. We release new stories every Monday. And if you're looking for more connection, resources, or ways to share your own story, come join us on Instagram at Born for This Stories, or visit our website at bornforthisstories.com. Remember, whatever part of the journey you're in, the waiting room, the recovery, or the in-between, you do not have to carry it alone. We see you, we stand with you, and never forget, you were born for this.